there. I'm so interested in seeing what him and Quinn Ewers do this year. There's been so much hype.
We should have a pretty dangerous running back in Blake Corum.
Maryland's gone. Talia Tagovailoa.
Yeah.
A little too backyard footballish.
Is going on, ladies and gentlemen? It is your boy Sean Spencer, one half of that dynamic duo that is Let's Talk Football. It's Tuesday, ladies and gentlemen, so you know what that means. We're talking some college football, and I'm never alone. I'm here with my guy and host of Restoring the Roar, Mr. Alex Newsman. What up, Alex?
Not too much, man. Excited to have Will on here. Talk some of your guys' rivalry here. Let you guys go back and forth on this, and as always, just talk the great sport of college football.
Absolutely, and we are right around the corner. But we have to talk about my guy, my co-host on Washington Football Weekly tomorrow night at this same time and this same place. South Carolina's finest, Mr. Will Kramer. What up, Will?
Hey guys, how we doing tonight?
Doing well.
Good. Well, listen, let me tell you, I'm so excited to be on here, and I got to give a shout out to both of you because as we go through July, and now we're in August. I've been listening to your show. I've been putting it on. I'm usually on a delay, or I start playing college football, so I put this on, and you guys have gotten the juices flowing. We get through the dog days, the summer, and I'm not really paying that much attention, to the headlines and whatnot. And all of a sudden, it's like I start listening to your show, and you're talking about players, about positions, and you're not just talking about the main teams. You're breaking down it further. And I was like, okay, it's coming. I'm starting to get into it now. So shout out to you guys. Great work.
Appreciate that.
Yeah. Hey, you're just as excited as we are. I will say today it's a little unfamiliar because normally me and you are on the same team, battling it out against other teams. But today we're on different sides of the tracks, man.
31 days from now.
That's right. For those of you who don't know, my guy, Will Kramer, and myself will be going to the first game of the year, North Carolina, South Carolina. That battle is going to be great. Tickets purchased, so we will be talking some trash today. Believe that. But hey, let's get right into it. Washington Football Weekly, 24 days until college football. We mentioned it a little bit earlier. The grass are starting to smell it. You're starting to see a lot more about coaches, training camps. Football is back altogether. But Alex, the game we love is how many Saturdays away? 3?
3 Saturdays.
Wow. Let's go.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, man.
That's insane to think about.
Yeah. Right there, it's sweet, man. It's lovely. But what are you what do you first think about? You were talking about it, Will, a little bit earlier. Like, what is your first thought? Is it the hot dogs? Is it the band's playing? Is it the first hit? What is it that kind of stokes your fire, other than us talking?
For me, it's just sitting down on the couch, seeing the multiple games. I start with game day the very first week every time, and then you get into the noon kickoffs, and you got multiple games going, and it's just this excitement of everyone starting fresh, everyone thinking that this is the year they have some that they're going to have their stellar season. It's just really exciting. I can tell you, living here on a college campus, when you have a good team. It's just, you can feel it in the air. It's palpable, and everyone is just talking about it. And so it just brings a big spring in everybody's step when on that first Saturday of the season when everything starts up.
Wee. Yes, sir. Oh. Yes, sir. I know they're loving it this year. There's a lot of extra excitement down there this year. And
this year, definitely, it's been very down for many years. But I can just remember back in the early 2010s, when there was Clowney and Lattimore, and I mean, like I mean, August was the worst month because you're just like, get here now, because you're so excited. And it is, it's what rooting for Michigan, rooting for North Carolina, rooting for Georgia. It's like, that's what makes those extra special, because the campus just comes alive. The community gets behind it. It's just something totally different, the pageantry, than pro sports.
Oh, absolutely. Saturdays in the fall is definitely something that you just can't be matched. I remember I went last year to the Michigan State. I think it was their homecoming and one of the games with Kat.
Wisconsin,
and, the Wisconsin game. And when they her friends her old college roommate, her daughter is in the band, so we got to walk with the band. We got to kind of walk the campus and see all the traditions. And I mean, you got just the smell of the hot dogs and the burgers, you know what I'm saying? The leaves falling, a little bit of a chill in the air. I can't feel it. Obviously, it's super hot out here, so I'm not feeling that. But still, just that thought that it's coming. It's coming. We're in August 1st. It's right here. So, hey, get ready, because it's right around the corner. But Alex, look, I got to come to you, because as we get into this season, things are starting to happen. We know there's a lot of different conference alignments, USC and UCLA coming to the Big Ten. We have Texas and Oklahoma going to the SEC.
Yeah.
Colorado, they have decided they're going to leave the Pac-12 and go to the Big 12. What does this mean for the Pac-12, and does this matter?
It doesn't. I mean, losing a team always kind of sucks, especially when you're already losing two. By losing Colorado, you're dropping down to 9, which is not very good for a conference. So we'll kind of see what the pulse is of the Pac-12 here, if they'll get some teams in, or if they're just going to stay at 9. What's going to happen? They'll still be a very strong conference in terms of like how good their teams are, with Oregon, Utah, Washington. Oregon State's getting better. Like, you've got some good teams still there, but it's going to affect it because you've got fewer conference games to play. That's one less venue you have going towards the conference. So in terms of the talent on the team, and I mean, Deion's going to make that team better. They can't get much worse than it was. So it would have been nice for the Pac-12 to have them. But I mean, I always envisioned Deion taking them to the Big 12 anyways.
Yeah. And then in due time, it was going to happen. But Will, according to Dan Lannon, coach of Oregon, Colorado hasn't really won much of anything on the field. So what kind of impact this has immediately for the team? Is that a big deal?
I think Alex is being kind. I think this is detrimental to the Pac-10, Pac-12, whatever their name is right now, Pac-9.
Right now,
only because for what you just said, it's not. Dan Lanning's not wrong with what he said about, what has Colorado been? And it's been sad. You can't think back to Cordell Stewart and Michael Westbrook was the last time Colorado was legit. But it's the Deion Sanders effect and the eyeballs. TV matters most in this game right now.
Mm-hmm.
And when Deion's gone and Southern Cal's gone and UCLA, what's the point of staying up late at night to watch the Pac conference? Who is Oregon playing? I mean, I think Oregon's the biggest loser in all of this right now.
Yeah.
Is saying, like, what do you got? Because you're very kind to mention Oregon State rising and Washington, but those aren't bringing eyeballs. Oregon can, but from a standpoint, I think this is a conference in crisis to start losing this, and the whole West in general. The minute the Big Ten snatched those 2 LA schools, things are in trouble out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ben said, rumor has it Oregon, Washington, Clemson, and FSU are going to the Big Ten. Oh, man. But I noticed you mentioned something to me in the background, Alex. Breaking news. Ben said it. Hunter Decker's Iowa State quarterback accused of betting on multiple sports at the university, according to ESPN. Wow.
Football games were included.
Really? Oh.
So was he anticipating taking over as the starting quarterback? Was he the starting quarterback?
I believe if he wasn't already the starter, he was coming in as the starter.
Wow.
I can't remember off the top of my head who their starter was last year. I'm gonna look it up. But yeah, I saw that and I was like, that is not good.
Wow.
Yeah, that's
craziness.
And he's likely going to be made an example to prevent this from happening in the future too. So he's in some trouble, and that program could be in some trouble just from a replacing him, his talent standpoint. I love Matt Campbell, that head coach.
Right.
Yeah.
I wonder, has it gotten this far? I think, we all know, about Calvin Ridley and all the different guys this year, Shaka Toney for us in Washington, that it's really started to leak into the NFL. But has it gotten that far in college? I mean, is this an isolated event, or is this something that maybe is just the first pin to drop,
I think what's going to affect that is how hard the punishment is here.
Oh, okay.
Because I feel like this is where you set the precedent.
Yeah.
This is, they could go as far as the kid's not allowed to play again. You realistically could. You're betting on college sports. You don't play college sports anymore. Like that's, you could go as hard as that. Yeah, absolutely. So, and if I'm a college player and I was thinking about maybe betting on games and then I see him get caught and he's no longer allowed to play, I might think twice about doing that.
Right. And we got players getting monetized. You got, contracts being, performed back and forth with these guys now. So it's different. It's a lot different than it once was. So this is a blockbuster story. Good gracious. Hey, football right around the corner. What happened?
There's a lot. So I pulled up a tweet here saying among the allegations towards Deckers here, underage gambling, a breach of university and NCAA policies. Example is using identity of another person, unfair wagering and conflict of interest, betting on Iowa State sporting events 26 times, once on football, wagers routinely and consistently placed by Decker's personal iPhone, 366 wagers, 297 of them while underage, totaling more than $2,799. Tax implications and knowingly and intentionally falsifying electronic sports wagering records with intent to deceive. That's
more than just a few.
Yeah.
This is a pattern of behavior. Yeah.
He's done.
Well, there you go. And they're going to definitely leave a mark because that's a black mark on that university. Whew. All right. Well, we shall see. Colorado, yes, back to that. Colorado is leaving the Pac-12 for the Big 12. You got a lot of stuff going on right now. Money moving different places. Now teams going different places. Everything. It's becoming more of a business. And this is kind of what they didn't want, but it's kind of inevitable once the money starts to really go out there as opposed to be behind closed doors. So,
think about that Big 12 now. Like you lose your two powerhouse schools in that conference. You lose Texas and Oklahoma. They've done a pretty good job at reloading. You got Cincinnati, UCF. Now Colorado's coming in. There's a couple other schools, if I'm not mistaken. They've beefed up that conference a lot.
Right.
It's a great point because when that happened, when Oklahoma and Texas left, I was like, well, there's their death sentence. Find other places to go. Everyone moved to the Pac, become the Pac-16, the Pac-20. They reloaded when it looked really, really bleak.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So we will definitely see what is going on. But listen, we are going to continue to move on. Look, our guy is here. You see the shirt that he is wearing, his South Carolina Gamecocks. We have a series here where we like to invite our guys on so they can talk about their teams. They can give us a little in-depth personal analysis. Goes a little something like that. So Will Kramer, South Carolina insider, lives on campus Has you worked for the university for some years?
I did about 4 or 5 years. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So yeah, you are a Gamecock yourself, one and only, and I love it. I love it. Talk to me, man. This is something that you're immersed in. You know what I mean? Because I know you didn't go there. I mean, you went to Shepherd, but still to be there. You talked about being on campus, being a part of everything, and just living there and how you're in it. Like, talk to us about South Carolina, the Gamecocks, man.
Yeah, no, appreciate the time and get a chance to, because things have, radically changed here in Columbia in the last couple of years with the arrival of Shane Beamer, because things were getting pretty bleak under Will Muschamp. But yeah, I was on campus from 2008 to 2013, and I was there for the glory days of Steve Spurrier, and like I mentioned earlier, the Clowneys came, Lattimores and Jeffries, and they just completely changed that program and the national exposure that got with it, and the campus just came alive during that time when you've got a solid, a really strong football team. They beat their rival Clemson 5 years in a row. And so it was just like, it was the greatest time to be on campus. And I was here and I was young, I was single. I could go out and watch every game. I could go to every game. I could do whatever I wanted, so it was a great time. But there's been some lean years, but things are starting to rise up again. And there's a lot of excitement here right now. Shane Beamer's, he's changing the culture. He's brought the excitement back, and it's making some dividends. And I reached out to you guys because today they were in the headlines, and for big reasons for them. And so it's like it might be kind of fun to tie this in and come on.
Oh, absolutely, man. Yeah, you guys picked up a major recruit, and we're gonna get into that. But you mentioned something before that I'm excited to hear about, because he really burst onto the scene for a lot of America last year when you had that 4 or 5 game win streak, middle of the year. You upset Tennessee, and you look good. Talk to us about Shane Beamer. He's your main guy, your head coach, and I mean, we're hearing stories about, these Luke Fickell, a lot of these great upstart coaches that really build up their team. You really have a team that, that wasn't the greatest at certain times, like you talked about, but he's really rejuvenated not just the team, but that whole area.
Yeah, man. What a hire by athletic director Ray Tanner. And Ray was on the hot seat during this time because he picked Will Muschamp, and he made some other coaching hires in some other sports that were not working out. Muschamp was a huge failure. And he went with this young guy. And Shane Beamer, at this point right now, it's almost as if he's got the Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan's of college football, where he's not this big X and O's guys, but he's a recruiter. He's enthusiastic. He's likable. It's kind of like when Dabo burst onto the scene and Clemson started having some of their success, and people liked they liked Dabo. I think they're tired of him now and his shtick, but Beamer's very likable, and it's allowing people from across the country to see hey, this guy's he's young, he's got energy, but people forget that he's got experience and he's got exposure. I mean, obviously Shane Beamer, he's the son of Virginia Tech legendary head coach Frank Beamer. He was around there for a while from his dad's program, but he was here in South Carolina. Shane Beamer's the one that convinced Jadeveon Clowney to come to South Carolina. So recruiting has always been in his chops. He was the recruiting guy for South Carolina when DJ Swearinger came, when Stephon Gilmore came, when Lattimore came, when Jeffrey came. So when they had their biggest years, that was him. And then he turned it over to Steve Spurrier Jr. and he left, and it all went downhill from here.
Yeah.
But after going back to his dad at Virginia Tech, he said, hey, I want to have a chance to finish out my dad's last couple of years. He was at Georgia, and then he was at Oklahoma working under Lincoln Riley and Bob Stoops. So he's been around a lot of legendary coaches and a lot of programs that have had a lot of success. And basically he's taken that role of CEO, and he's that motivator type. He's the accountability. They preach, the word they use is love down here, which is kind of weird to talk about football and masculinity, but it's about family, it's about trusting your guys, and it's about getting people to buy into the program, and it's working.
It's crazy. I mean, hey, it's great that he's getting so much of that attention, especially with, I mean, let's talk the elephant in the room, Dawn Staley and the ladies basketball team. And we know that dominates all the news out there. But Beamer's really set himself apart, in my opinion, as, I am here too. It's not just, Dawn Staley and the other coach. It's me and what I've been able to do. So it really makes me think very highly of you guys. And that's one of the things I was worried about for week one, just because he has you guys so motivated. And I'm just loving what he's doing out there.
Right. Well, and what's crazy about it is Ray Tanner had to choose between a couple coaches, and he was considering Shane Beamer, and he was considering the name's blanking on me now, but Billy Napier, who's at Florida. Yeah. Those were the final two, and they both have South Carolina ties, and he was trying to figure out, and you're picking one who was a rising head coach at Louisiana, who was guaranteed to get a step up somewhere, versus a guy who had never been a head coach before. Like, that's a bold decision to make. But one of the things that Tanner was looking for was someone who wanted to stay at South Carolina for years to come. And it's sort of a situation where, like, people think, well, Shane's going to establish himself and go back to Virginia Tech and take over his legacy. But Shane was here. His first kid was born when he was here, living in Charleston. I think his dad might have been around the Citadel at the time or something like that. But he was down here, and he's a lifer. So I can't say like lifer to this job, but he's really bought into Columbia. You mentioned Dawn Staley. He loves her program. He attends their games. She actually comes over during big recruiting weekends and meets the players, because he says he gets as much requests by the players and the moms to meet Dawn that he does anybody else. So they're neighbors, and so she walks over and says hello on to breakfast and with players and stuff. So it's a family of athletics. He goes to the college baseball games. He'll go out to the World Series if they make it there. He attends. So he's really a fixture in the community, and it's really gotten this whole buy-in of the program by just jumping into it and not just saying, I'm a football coach. That's what I do. Yeah. I'm not the head ball coach, essentially, is what he's the opposite.
Right. I love that. But let's go on. Let's go on from that, Alex. Let's ask about the team and all that good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously, when you guys look at when people look at the roster from the outside, obviously people go to the quarterback first, Spencer Rattler. But you guys have a lot of very good players around him, recruits, transfers, returning guys. So kind of talk to us a bit about what you guys got going on there for the roster.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, the number one guy on the team that, the face of the team is Spencer Rattler. And this school has never had a passer with the talent that he can do. Even when he struggled last year, some of the throws he would make, we'd all just be sitting there like, whoa, is this what it's like to have a pro quarterback? Like, this guy he's got an arm on him. And things really came together at the end, which I kind of will get to as, a little bit later. But the other guy is his receiving, his favorite target is Juice Wells, who transferred from JMU, came from a 1AA, moved over to South Carolina, and towards the end of the season especially tore it up, and they really had a good connection. So those are kind of the top guys. Actually, you wonder who the number 3 best players, and Sean will understand this. Yeah. We have a stud punter by the name of Kai Kroger.
Let's go.
Okay.
And he pins these teams back and makes defenses go, 80, 90 yards. It's kind of crazy for me to be hyping up one of the punters, but he was phenomenal last year in changing the field position, and also part of Beamer ball, just like his dad.
Yes.
Kai Kroger was throwing, passes and they were running fakes and, just putting that whole special team swag to things. So he actually was a pretty good player. But you're right about, they've got some transfers that have come in. This is wild. They don't have a single returning tight end in their room. They had to completely flip it, because you mentioned him a couple weeks ago. They lost Jaheim Bell to Florida State, which is a huge loss because they underutilized him last year. And he said, I'm out of here. And he went somewhere else. And then the other guy, Austin Stodner, went back to Oklahoma. He came with Spencer from Oklahoma. And let me tell you, he had slow feet. He had brick feet on him, and he was terrible last year. So he went back to Oklahoma, went to, I guess, the Pass Happy League that is that conference. but they've been able to get some recruits, get some transfers come in. They've got some underrated tight ends that I can't tell you the guy from Arkansas that's going to be the tight end, but he's actually supposed to be like under the radar, impressing. And they brought in a wide receiver from Memphis by the name of Eddie Lewis. Okay. And there's a real good chance I think the offense is just going to explode, and he's someone that's like not many people know about, but there's a real good chance that he's going to be featured a lot. Overall, for the recruiting, it ended up being 16th in the nation. So that was pretty high. They got a lot of local guys. South Carolina's Mr. South Carolina Football Player of the Year, a defensive lineman. They got some Georgia guys. And then most importantly, he nailed his first 5-star in Nick Harbor, coming from he's got a pipeline going on to the DMV right now with some players. And he got Nick Harbor is a wide receiver, tight end, hybrid athlete. He's a track star. And this guy chose South Carolina with track as his second big sport over going to Oregon, which is kind of wild. And their track team.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, I absolutely love that. Hey, there you have it. Absolutely. Now let's get down into it. We know what you and I have talked about. And we keep going back and forth about the season opener. Will and myself will be going to that game. I'm going to bring up, let me see the screen right now. Take the audio off. Alrighty. Can we see it? All right.
Yep.
We have our schedule right here. First game at Charlotte, North Carolina. North Carolina versus South Carolina in a great game. Something that's now being dubbed the QB duel. I am very eager to see what both of our quarterbacks can do, but you mentioned you had some issues with your defense. It's well documented how we've done. Talk to us about this first game, and genuinely, what do you expect?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be a toss-up right now. I favor South Carolina because I think the offense – well, that's the big key for South Carolina. This is the unknown right now, and this may hurt you guys, is the fact that there's a new offensive coordinator here in Columbia by the name of Dowell Loggins. So nobody knows what the offense is going to look like. And they built a lot of momentum up at the end of last year. You mentioned, they put up, I think, 5 or 6 touchdowns in a row on Tennessee. Right. They put up over 30 points on Clemson. They put up, almost 50 points on Notre Dame. Like, the offense completely changed at the end of the year. Rattler came alive. Like, something changed. Something clicked, and something changed. And so we don't know what this team's going to look like on week 1. So it's hard to predict, other than there's a lot of continuity for South Carolina on offense. And so I would anticipate that it's going to be a high scoring, it's going to be a shootout. And I'm going to lean Gamecocks. Obviously, I'm biased in that, but I think it's going to be a pretty good game.
Yeah, if we're being realistic, I genuinely think this is a game that's going to come down to one of the last couple drives in the game. It's going to be a couple turnovers maybe, but it's going to be a back and forth gunslinger game, and it's going to come down to the end. Hopefully our defense is not the one that's on the field last, because do not have that much trust in them. But yeah, it's a coin flip. I think we'll get the dub, but what else did you expect me to say?
Right.
And then the next week, Furman. So you get a little bit of a breeze. Are you expecting any type of hiccup? Even because we see what's coming up after that, is there any chance that you overlook Furman?
No, and that's one of the beauties of Beamer right now. He's got these guys focused, and he doesn't allow that to happen. They could have done that against Georgia State the year before, and he didn't let that happen, and they rolled Georgia State. So wouldn't be worried about that game one bit.
Cool. So we got it at 2-0. Let's move right along. 2, and I see Anthony Handy and Colin are in the comments. You see what it is. Let me get this out from in front of your face. Georgia, South Carolina, and a game I am so excited to see. What are your thoughts genuinely about this game?
I think if there's ever a time to pick off Georgia, it's going to be early in this season. as they have to figure things out with this quarterback. I'll say this, that little ranking that put Carson Beck in front of Spencer Rattler on the top 50 quarterbacks, that's complete bull.
Yeah.
He's so unproven versus someone who put up some numbers. You can't do that. So that would be my only, I think that's an opportunity. I don't think South Carolina is there yet to compete with Georgia. I mean, I think they're going to get there in another year or two. I think we're going to be back to those years where South Carolina and Georgia battled every single year. It was either close games and, it didn't matter who was at home. The other team could steal it pretty easily. But I just don't quite think that South Carolina on defense is there yet. I really don't know who Georgia has on offense, honestly, besides Brock Bowers. I don't, with some of the guys that went pro and all that, and I know they've got a lot of guys that went pro on defense, but they've got enough people in reserves that I would still think Georgia's gonna get this one. I would put it down as a loss, but I don't think it's going to be the game like we had last year where Georgia just ran them out of the stadium in the first quarter of the season of the game.
Where the hell was that at halftime? He said, "Nah, fam. Beck was ready last season. Kirby just had to go with the hot hand."
Sure. No one knows who Carson Beck is, so I mean, he might know.
Yeah.
But
how do we know? How do we know? Like, talk to us, Anthony. You saying you knew he was ready? How did you know that he was ready? Because I've never seen him, not even in garbage time. Yeah. And when I have, I mean, the game was so far in hand, it didn't really matter. So
yeah, I mean, a lot different than live bullets in the SEC game.
Yeah. So we'll see about that. You got Georgia on this one. Next one, Mississippi State. Still having Will Rogers. Obviously, they don't have Coach Leach anymore. Rest in peace. What are you thinking about this one?
Yeah, I don't know a whole lot about Mississippi State. Don't they have? Yeah, they've got Will Rogers as a quarterback who can sling it pretty well. I don't know much about who took over it in Starkville to really talk much about him. So I've put them down for a win on this one. Just because, I don't know a whole lot about Mississippi State.
If I'm not mistaken, the defensive coordinator took over, right?
I think you're right.
And so then after that one, Tennessee, the game that was starred last year, you had the huge upset. We know they're coming in with Milton this year, but a whole lot of attention on them because of all the sanctions and all those type of things. What kind of Tennessee are you getting when you start to get into the thick of the middle of the season?
This is going to be a really interesting game. This is going to be one that you'd have to look and see if it ends up being a potential game day spot, because Tennessee, let me tell you something. They are ticked off over what happened last year, because not only did their quarterback go down and the season went down, but they were just upset over the whole game against South Carolina and the fact that it was 5 or 6 possessions that South Carolina scored a touchdown. They scored a touchdown every single possession of the first half of the game. That's video game numbers stuff.
Yeah.
I've never seen that before, And so we know that Josh Heupel, he's pretty fired up for this game. And then, Alex, you've even said it a couple times a couple weeks ago where you're like, where's this love for Joe Milton? You and I saw what he did in Michigan.
He was awful.
And they just think that they're like, oh, well, he's just going to take over for Hendon Hooker and he can run the offense even better. I'm like, does anybody see that he can't hit the broadside of a barn?
Yep.
Yeah, he can throw it 80 yards in the air, but who's going to catch it?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, I will, but the fact that it's at Tennessee and the fact that they are fired up for this game, like they want this game. They're so mad from last year. I probably would lean Tennessee, but I don't know.
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting one. I'm very interested to, like you guys, see what Joe Milton brings to the table. We know he has a cannon, but like you said, it's an interesting. But we also know that Hendon Hooker also was very poor when he was at Virginia Tech and then came over and Heupel got him turned around. So Who knows? We'll definitely see what happens. Moving down, you talked about Napier before. He's got now his 3rd year at Florida now. He's let's see. He lost his quarterback, but he still has a couple pieces. This is a big one for you guys. What are you thinking?
I don't know what this Florida team's going to be right now. I'm going to predict them beating Florida. I mean, Graham Mertz was not good at Wisconsin.
No.
And the fact that and I like him because my family lives in Madison. They're season ticket holders, so I was rooting for him. I dubbed him Heisman Mertz after that first game of his debut, and he was great. So now he's coming to the SEC. It's like, I don't know about this. And so obviously Florida always has talent, but I look at this as a key game and a game they need to win. Because they got to be able to put away some of the other teams in the division that aren't Vandy and aren't Mizzou. And you've got to beat some of those other teams. You've got to steal wins against, Florida. If you ever get lucky and get Georgia knocked up, that type of stuff. You got to get some wins there. And so they need to stay ahead of Florida here and beat them.
Well, and then speaking of, you got a Missouri following that week. And that's a win you have to have. You can't mess up in a game like this. What do you think on this one?
So this is the tough game. When you talk about trap games, is the fact that there's no love or any way to get excited for Mizzou, whether they're coming to town or going to Columbia. Both schools live in Columbia. It's just a bad game. No one gets excited for it. And in the past, South Carolina's had some clunkers against them, including last year, where it seemed like Eli Drinkwitz was going to get fired. And then they came to Columbia and they beat them pretty bad. And Mizzou walked away with a real nice win. And that kind of really ticked off some fans last year. And they're like, what is going on with this season? And South Carolina is the type of team, Sean, you're used to this with our Washington franchise, that they'll lose against a team they should win, and then they'll beat someone they shouldn't.
Yep.
So it's hard to say. It should be a win, but you never know.
But exactly, you never know, especially with the Missouri team. And then also another one with Texas A&M. With all the talent that has been that we've talked about over the last couple of years, you would expect them to do more. Jimbo Fisher as coach, but it really didn't pan out last year. And I really can't say that they've gotten better. So
who's playing quarterback for them?
Exactly.
That's the main question,
right?
Yeah.
So what are we thinking about that one?
That's another one where, just like you said, I don't know who's at quarterback. For many, many years, they have really struggled against A&M. And last year was the first time they beat them. And that was a big, big victory here. People celebrated finally beating A&M, getting over that hump. So right now, I would say that seems favorable. But once we see that team come, October, to kind of find out who is this A&M team and are they more formidable than we thought, or like last year where they were just straight garbage.
Yeah. And then, honestly, if you guys have, a good run early on, you could coast into the bowl season. You got Jacksonville State and then Vanderbilt, and both Alex and I are expecting Vanderbilt to be a lot better, but still, you're not expecting them to be that good. And, so, are these two dubs?
Yeah.
2 easy wins for you
The
guys?
only time Vandy was ever a scare was when James Franklin was there.
Yep.
And he did a great job there.
Mm-hmm.
He really made them competitive. But ever since then, and even before that, they're a rollover.
Oh, yeah. Jackson State, Vanderbilt, and then you finish off with Kentucky and Clemson. What these are big ones.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so Kentucky has become a rival school here in the last couple of years. Some of it being from the fact that they beat Will Muschamp every single year. And so after being like, Kentucky never could beat South Carolina with Steve Spurrier. I don't think Steve Spurrier lost to Kentucky his entire coaching career between Florida and South Carolina. And then Will Muschamp took over and he kept losing to him. And so fans were so furious here where they kept losing to Kentucky. Obviously, Stoops has done a really good job there and made them a pretty formidable team. I think, did they get Devin Leary transferred to them this year?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they've got some talent at quarterback. So I think they're going to be a tougher opponent than some teams give them credit for. And then there's a beef going on between Stoops and Beamer with the whole, he said something last summer at this time, Mark Stoops did, about wearing shades and sunglasses and dances based on what Beamer did, and then they beat him. And that was a big win for South Carolina. So that's going to be a tough game. I'd probably put it as a loss since it's going to be at Kentucky right now. And
You guys are at home.
It is? Oh, yeah, verse.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, but, I still put that almost as a loss. If they've got a couple wins earlier in the year, they probably will lose that. And then this is the great unknown. The Palmetto Bowl is a big game down here. This game will be at home. Obviously, this team's a whole lot better. They went into Clemson last year and won by a few points. Kind of shocked everybody with that, kept that momentum going. But Clemson had a bad quarterback last year, and he was detrimental to that offense. And so what is Klubnik going to look like this year and really move the ball? So I don't know if they're going to win two years in a row. I will see that may be kind of tough.
Okay. I can see it. It's gonna be an interesting season. So what? How many losses do you have?
I'm looking at they could be. It kind of maybe comes down to the Clemson game: 8-4 or 9-3, and I think that's kind of South Carolina's. That for years to come, they're going to be in that 8-10 range. When Spurrier had them on their highest years, they were winning 10 and 11 games. And I think that's their ceiling. And I think Beamer can get them back to that they had in the early 2010s. But I think you're looking at every year you're about an 8-4, 9-3 team. 1 or 2 games go your way, and you can get 10 wins. My thing is what I'm looking for him to do is get back to when we would go to Athens, and we weren't scared of going to Athens. And we'd run trick plays and beat y'all 45-34. I think was the one year we ran a trick play with Melvin Ingram, and it was a fake punt, and he ran it 60 yards. And we had those battles with Georgia. Those were fun because I used to go to Athens prior to the game, and the fans were like, "Oh man, you guys are gonna be good this year. That's gonna be a fun game." And that just has been lost for over a decade. But getting back to that 9-10 win opportunities, I think really is the ceiling of this program.
Oh yeah. Honestly, I think it's about winning a couple of those big ones. Health is definitely key. Winning the games you're supposed to win. But man, I'm excited to see what you guys can do. I'm excited to see how it goes. Unfortunately for you, I will be rooting hard against your team in the first week. But how else would I wouldn't want it any other way, man.
And those have been some fun games the last couple of years that we've had. When it was Sam Howell's freshman debut, people were furious here that we lost to a freshman quarterback. Again, Will Muschamp, not a good head coach. Really, it was a
name keeps coming up.
It was kind of letting us know a preview of what his tenure was going to be there. And then was it Beamer's first bowl game was when he drew all those trick plays with Jaheim Bell and DeCarrion Joyner and everything to beat you guys in the bowl game. I think it was the Mayo Bowl game. So there's been some battles. It's a very unpredictable game, which is fun. And I'm glad that both of our teams have some quarterbacks that can hype this up to make it really exciting. Because to the nation, North Carolina, South Carolina means nothing, Right. But when you talk about Drake May, that brings some folks up. You look at potential NFL quarterbacks, and he's not getting a lot of credit right now. But obviously, if Rattler continues the path that they got him on towards the end of that season, dude looked great at the end, and he could really turn into a pro prospect.
Yeah, and I mean, and look, it can't be denied. While it might not have been sustained, he's had moments of success in South Carolina, moments of success at Oklahoma. I mean, obviously, we know how it ended at Oklahoma, but there's a reason why he was so highly touted. And if he could just channel it all in, and I love what Beamer is doing with him. If he could channel it and get it going, he's good. I just hate it because there's some times where if he's not on, he is off and really off. So I'm hoping we see obviously a great game in that first one. We'll be there. Alex, if you see a couple guys on TV potentially running out, you'll be like, oh, there they are.
Yeah.
Oh, man. But look, hey, we're going to keep you here just for a second. We're almost to the end. Ladies and gentlemen, for those of you that don't know, we had our first ever Mascot Madness challenge. We started with 48 mascots, went down to 1. Surprise, surprise. It was the Georgia Bulldogs. They won it over.
They win everything.
Everything
football related.
Right?
It's just a great time to be a Georgia Bulldog.
Yeah. But shout out to them because I think the number was 157 all around votes. for just these two teams, which means you guys like it. You're really into it. So we are going to bring it back. Yeah, buddy, the Mascot Madness Challenge. Alex, round 2. Let's go.
Yep.
What we got?
We got a whole new bracket to unveil. So we did it a little differently this time. Last bracket, I kind of did like, okay, the cats in one section, like kind of tried to match by the actual mascot type. This time, for the most part, you got to get through your own conference to make it anywhere. So you got to get through the schools in your conference. So there weren't many mascots left for certain conferences, the Big Ten being one of them. So you'll see different conferences have some mascots in there just to kind of even it out. But we'll start it off with your conference, Sean, the ACC. So just based on where I saw them in the list, the Hokie Bird got the bye, first round bye. So the first matchup is the Cardinal Bird of Louisville versus Mr. and Mrs. Wolf of NC State.
Oh, okay. Exactly. I had the same
and the other matchup is the Cavalier of Virginia against Rock the Panther of Pitt.
Rahoo.
Let's go.
With and this is where you'll start to see other schools in there. The first round bye for that matchup is Monty and the Aztec Warrior of San Diego State.
Okay.
Moving to the Big 12, the Mountaineer is one of the ones with the first round bye.
Mhm.
That matchup to see who plays them is Big J of Kansas against Bruiser of Baylor. And then we have the Super Frog of TCU against Raider Red of Texas Tech to see who faces Ace the Warhawk.
Ace the Warhawk.
I'm blanking on which one that's for. I'll look it up here.
There's a Warhawk in the Big 12.
I don't think it's the Big 12. I think this is another one of those.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's ULM.
Oh, okay.
Was that Louisiana Monroe?
It is.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then in the Big 10 section, this is where, like I said, we didn't have enough mascots to even do the first little bit here. So by popular demand, a few people were asking for him. Herky the Hawk makes it in. Goes against Herbie Husker of Nebraska.
Oh. Herky.
The winner of that faces another Sun Belt team, Howell of Arkansas State.
Okay.
A Red Wolf.
Yep. And then this is again where there were supposed to be the two matchups. We didn't even have enough in the Big Ten left for that. A bunch of the Big Ten teams went in the first one.
Oh, yeah.
So, and teams like Michigan and that don't actually have the mascot on game day. So they weren't included. But Benny Beaver of Oregon State goes against Swoop. I'm trying to remember where he's from. Some of these I have them written down and some I don't. Swoop is from not the Eagles.
That's what first thing it came up
to. Yeah.
College.
Utah,
thank you.
How
Swoop
of
Utah.
Yeah, I don't know how they're Swoop is a Ute.
A Ute.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
It is University of Utah. It's a bird.
Yeah.
A red-tailed hawk.
Yeah. So then we have Benny versus Swoop starting the Pac-12 matchups in a different bracket here. The winner of that will go to face Alfie and Wolfie Jr. of Nevada, the Wolfpack.
The Wolfpack.
And then moving to the actual Pac-12 bracket here, Wilbur the Wildcat from Arizona goes against Trojan and Traveler of USC.
Oh.
The winner of that faces Dubs and Harry the Husky of Washington.
Oh. That's going to get some love.
And then the other Pac-12 matchup, Joe and Josephine Bruin go up against Chip of Colorado.
Okay.
And the winner of that faces Big Blue of Utah State. Starting to see some of these Mountain West Conference teams make their way in.
Yeah.
And then over to the other side, the SEC here. The Wildcat of Kentucky against Bully the Bulldog of Mississippi State.
Okay.
Then we have Mr. C of Vanderbilt, Commodore, against the Rebel Black Bear of Ole Miss.
Okay.
The first round bye in that one is, hoping I'm saying this right, Reve of Texas A&M. I don't know how it's actually said, but and then again, another Mountain West team, the other first round bye, Billy the Warrior of Hawaii. Then we'll move to the Big 12. We've got Jonathan the Husky of UConn against, again, another one I just threw in here, Riptide of, I believe, Tulane.
Yeah, Tulane's Riptide.
And then the first round bye for that one is Captain Kane, I believe, of Tulsa.
Oh, good old Tulsa.
Then we've got the Bearcat, obviously, of Cincinnati, against Petey the Pirate of, I believe, ECU.
ECU, yeah. East Carolina.
And then the first round matchup, or first round bye for that one is Flash of Kent State.
Okay. Revile or Reveal or whatever. That's
it's
a dog. It's a dog.
Revelli.
Oh, okay.
I didn't know that.
And then we've got so we've got Blaze the Dragon of UAB.
Okay. Yep.
Against Rory the Panther of, I believe, FIU.
Oh wow.
If I'm not mistaken.
Florida International.
And then the first round bye for that one is Owlsy, the Burrowing Owl of FAU.
Oh, is that Florida Atlantic?
Yep.
And then FIU is Florida
International.
Is it international? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, Panthers and the Owls. Yeah. And then we have Scrappy of North Texas.
Oh.
Against this is another one I have to look up. Seymour DeCampus.
Who is Truman the Tiger?
Missouri's.
They
lost in the first round.
In the first one. Oh, Seymour DeCampus is Southern Miss. That's what Golden Eagle.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. Well, yeah.
And the first round bye for that one is Zippy of Akron.
Oh, the Zips.
And then the MAC section of the bracket. Nice. The first round buys in this one are Victor E. Bull of Buffalo.
Okay.
And Buster Bronco of Western Michigan.
Okay.
And the matchups in there are Victor E. Husky of Northern Illinois against Charlie Cardinal of Ball State.
Oh.
And then we have the Michigan matchup here. I put them all in the same kind of section, so only one Michigan one makes it through. So the Flying Sea of Central Michigan goes against Swoop of Eastern Michigan to play Buster Bronco.
Oh,
that makes sense.
I like it. All righty.
So one of the early ones that you mentioned, we struggled over Swoop. So I looked it up. This makes no sense to me, but this hits home to Sean and I. So the Utah Utes mascot, their symbol has Indian feathers on it.
Right.
But they changed the mascot to a red-tailed hawk. But the helmet still has the Indian feathers on it. Those aren't matching up at all.
Right.
Yeah.
And they said that they didn't think that the Warrior needed to be a mascot, but it could be a symbol of the university, but not its mascot. But I don't understand. Maybe the red-tailed hawk was a part of the Utes nation there, so Maybe that's a symbol, but that just doesn't seem to.
Right. Well, does anything connect to Ute? Like, what is the Ute? We still don't have the answer to that question.
Right. Yeah.
So, oh man. So look, that is it. The second ever, I want to say round. Yeah, the round of this tournament has started out there. Alex will put that on all the sites. Start voting now. We're gonna see who comes in this version of the challenge. I'm so excited to see.
I got my pick already. Who I think.
It's been fun.
Oh, yeah.
It's been a fun thing to vote on.
Oh yeah, and I'm loving it. I'm loving all the fan participation in there.
Mm-hmm.
The more you guys participate, the more we'll do it, and it's kind of bringing you guys in and getting you guys excited, just like Will was talking about a little bit earlier. Hey, we got 5 minutes left. We're about to head out of here. You know how we end the show. We and all of us are avid players of NCAA 14 or some kind of version of this. All right, and I got to ask all of you a question. Okay, game's on the line. You need the win. You go. You get the touchdown. Oh yeah, you get the touchdown. It's 31-30. Do you kick the extra point, or do you?
Nope. Oh, you better believe it.
So speaking of which, I actually was in this predicament with BYU just recently. I was playing Georgia, and they got out to a big lead. It was like 31-10 going into the fourth. So I stormed back in this, finally get my passing game going. I'm driving down, score on a touchdown. I throw the back of the end zone. He tiptoes in, 31-30. And I'm like, all right, my kicker is good. I can kick the extra point, just go to overtime, just work it, just get in overtime. But I'm just sitting here like, you know what? No, this play has worked all day. I'm going to run it. It was a read option right at the middle. Man, that thing got stuffed. I about near through my controller. I was like, all right, I got 1 minute. Let me try this onside kick. Never works. And ended up losing it 31-30. So, yeah. But look, Will, you're on here. You're our guest, man. Going for two. One more thing. You got anything to say?
Nope, other than I always kick the field goal. I'm conservative.
There you go. I love it. Oh, man. Alex, what about you, man?
I'll use this time to talk about mine. My dynasty update there. So I'm in year 15 at JMU. Well, I'm starting year 16 now.
Nice.
A couple games in. Was on the greatest stretch. I was on like Nick Saban levels of greatness. I hadn't lost a game in like 6 years. Made my way to the Natty last year, year 15. Playing number 1 Penn State. I'm in as the number 2. And I was like, okay, let's go whoop them. And it was back and forth. And then I threw a pick 6 late. So they went up 35-32.
Yeah.
I had the ball driving down. I get to like the 50-yard line with like 5 seconds left. I was like, okay, forwards, let's go. I got tackled at the 5-yard line to lose my first game in 6 years in the Natty, 35-32. So probably 1 or 2 more years I was looking at it before Jim Harbaugh finally kicks the can and I can go to Michigan. Unless it glitches in his age resets again. But looking for one more run at JMU.
So you're just going to keep it riding out at JMU until Michigan opens. Is that your plan?
That's the plan, yep.
Well, with my 2 years at Harrisonburg, we would have loved to have a coach like you and all those championships.
Right. Yeah, and look, as somebody that left the dynasty in North Carolina like I had, yeah, stay there, okay? Don't go anywhere. This rebuild has not been pretty, all right?
I mean, you haven't created 3 different players to get your team
and each time I go, and look, last time I just did recruiting. I'm in the off season, and I got like 3 or 4 40s. And what I used to do, like when I'm growing up and before, was if I got a 40, I was like, oh, well, then I have to flip them to a 99. It's the opposite. It has to happen. I don't do it anymore, though. I haven't done it with BYU. I feel good about that.
You cheater.
I lost like 4 games last year. It's been a rough year. You know, I'm good. All right.
How's Tyree Diggs doing?
Oh, he's in the NFL somewhere. All right. Because we didn't get him. But look, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. Will, we appreciate you hopping on here, talking South Carolina. Will, we will be on tomorrow night, 8 p.m., Washington Football Weekly, talking training camp. This is the second week of training camp. A lot of expectations, a lot of hype about our defense, our offense. Finally get that new owners talk out there. So looking forward to that, man.
Redskins are coming back.
They're coming back, baby. Yo, hey, so for my guy down there, Mr. Will Kramer, my guy over here, Alex Loosemore, Restoring the Roar.
Coming back next week.
Here we go. Nice. Here we go. To talk about the Detroit Lions, bringing them back to the mountaintop, getting them to the mountaintop.
Here's hoping.
There you go.
Yeah.
And you know who it is. It's your boy, Sean Spencer. So, hey, we will see you next time. Peace. Have a good evening.